The most hated man in Italy was also one of the most feared men in Italy. To make things worse for him, his own son became his biggest enemy. What happened to this family? Welcome to our channel. Today, let's find out Mafia, his son, became his biggest enemy. But unlike his father, Matteo was ambitious and extremely greedy. When he was just 14 years old, he killed a local bar owner who had been rude to him just to prove how powerful the Mafia were. Even though he respected his father for his position, he thought that his father was too old school. This was reserved for traitors only. Once you left the family, you were no longer part of it, and you couldn't come back unless you were forgiven. While planning his attack on another boss, Matteo invited his father to join him so that he could get his approval. Now this was a trap. And when the other bosses arrived at the restaurant where the meeting was supposed to take place, they were greeted by police instead of Matteo's men. The police arrested them all and charged them with serious crimes. This was Matteo's way of getting rid of his father's rivals and taking their place. He had finally proven himself as a boss. He was willing to go to any lengths to prove himself right. He had planted moles in Matteo's own gang, and they were feeding him intel. This gave the boss enough time to move his family to a safe house. Even though his family was missing, he knew they were alive, and that was what mattered the most. So he did the one thing he was best at, killing. He was ready to face the consequences of his actions. He had known his father would turn against him, so he had made plans accordingly. They will stop at nothing to achieve their goals, even if it means destroying their own family. Second, don't believe everything you see. Sometimes appearances can be deceiving. Matteo may have looked like a harmless kid, but inside he was a monster. He had anticipated this outcome, and he had a getaway plan all figured out. As the police chased after him, Matteo sped through the streets. Throughout history, there have been countless cases of sons betraying their fathers. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. See you in the next video. It seems like it's in human nature. We hope we've done justice to the story of Matteo Messina Denaro and his father. Tito Rina. If you liked this story, please leave us a thumbs up. We'll see you next time with another gripping tale. He knew every turn by heart, and he took them all expertly. Finally, he reached the harbor and got onto a speedboat, sped away from the shore, leaving the police behind. When the boss's men arrived at his mansion to arrest him, they were met with gunfire. His men were ready for them, and they fought tooth and nail. It was a full-blown war, and no one was backing down. Ordered his men to attack the boss's family, and that's exactly what they did. The boss's wife and children were nowhere to be found. They had vanished without a trace. As for the boss, he had disappeared into thin air, and no one knew where he had gone, or even if he was alive. He kept his position in the Mafia until his death. He died a respected man, even though his son had brought shame to his name. Some said he had fled to South America, while others said he was hiding in an unknown location in Europe. No one knows what truly happened to him. He was too busy to even notice what was happening. He was gearing up for war, but Matteo wasn't backing down. He had his own ambitions, and he had plans to grow his criminal empire. His plan was simple. To him, this was nothing but plain betrayal. He had always taught Matteo to stay humble and never betray the family, but his teachings fell on deaf ears. All Matteo cared about was his own power, and he was willing to sacrifice anyone to achieve that, even his own father. He would take over the territory of another boss, which would promote him higher in the ranks of the Mafia. In his mind, his father was holding the Mafia back by not expanding their business. The young Matteo was all for modernization and expansion. Because of that, he did something his father never even dreamed of, starting his own criminal group. This was his initiation into the world of crime. Ever since then, there was no turning back. He went straight to the boss and told him that Matteo had betrayed them all. The boss was shocked. "You have betrayed my trust and the trust of the entire organization, have disgraced your family, and you will pay dearly for this." Before Matteo could even utter a word, the boss ordered his men to take him away. He was going to be exiled from the Mafia. He had broken the law, and now he would face the consequences. He had always trusted Matteo, and even gave him some of his own territory to manage. Little did he know that this trust would be misused. With the evidence his father provided, the boss called Matteo and his men for a meeting. He wanted answers, and he wanted them now. By the time he was 20, he had already made a name for himself in the Mafia. People would hear his name with fear in there. eyes because this man was pure evil. He wanted more power and money than what was rightfully his as the youngest member of the Mafia Commission. This thirst for power blinded him and led him to do some really nasty things, including killing his own father. From the late 80s to the mid-90s, the most influential member of the Sicilian Mafia Commission was Tito Riina, a man with strong beliefs, iron will, and loyalty only to himself. He was involved in many heinous activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, and even murder. At one point, he even planned to assassinate a judge who was an obstacle in a lot of his illegal activities. He earned his place among the highest-ranking members of the Mafia with blood, sweat, and tears. This man had climbed up the ranks from being a soldier to becoming the capo mandamento, or head of the family. As they say, like father, like son. So it comes as no surprise that his son, Matteo Messina Denaro, followed in his footsteps. Matteo's greed started at a very young age, but something people didn't know about him was that he was his father's biggest critic. Now, this was a major insult to the older Riina, because starting your own criminal group is a huge no in the Mafia, and here's where things took a turn for the worst. But his father was furious. Now, Matteo's father wasn't someone to mess around with. When Matteo arrived at the meeting, he knew he was in trouble. The boss was fuming. His voice echoed through the hall as he spoke. But Matteo wasn't someone who would accept defeat. He had known this day would come when Matteo would betray him, so he had prepared accordingly. As for Matteo, in the end, the boss's men won, but this wasn't the end. Matteo escaped in a black SUV. At this point, he was no longer a wanted man. He had vanished without a trace, just like his mother had before him. All we know is that he disappeared, and the case against him was closed. As for his father, there are two lessons we can learn from this story. First, never trust someone who is ambitious. This is not the first time we've heard of such incidents. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Have you ever seen such a tragic situation? Let us know in the comments below.